Places that never close feel different at night, like they were never meant to rest, and something else shows up to keep them company.
Inside, everything looked normal, but it didn't feel normal. It felt like the building itself was listening, waiting for me to make the first mistake.
Little things started moving on their own. Nothing dramatic, nothing you could prove. Just
I told myself it was just another slow night, that tired minds imagine things.
I bent down to pick it up, but something stopped me. It wasn't fear of the dark. It was the feeling that the knocking hadn't come from the front of the store. It came from back here.
I told myself to call out, to say something, anything, but the words never came. Because
I leaned forward just enough to see inside. And that was when I understood the word. The light didn't make me feel safer. It made everything worse, because it proved there was space between.
I kept telling myself to step back, to leave the room, but my body wouldn't listen.
From above, the room looked simple, ordinary. But the shadows didn't follow the rules anymore. I wasn't afraid of what I could see anymore.
Right here. I didn't turn around. My hand never touched the switch, but the lights went out anyway.
I should have left.
I leaned closer without meaning to, like the darkness was pulling me in. And in that...
I hadn't made that path, but it was waiting for me. Straight, deliberate, leading right.
The room was changing to make me walk the way it wanted. The shelves didn't just crowd me, they were guiding me, closing off everything except the place they wanted me to stand.
There was a space in the room that swallowed light, and then it started swallowing sound. I couldn't see who was in there.
It wasn't trying to come out. Not yet. It just wanted me close.
The plastic didn't just move, it breathed. Something was standing inches away from my face.
I wasn't reaching for it anymore, it was reaching for me. The tear widened.
The opening wasn't big, but it didn't need to be.
It didn't grab me. It didn't rush. It just touched the world on my side, like it was learning what it felt like.
It didn't pull me. It didn't chase me. It just went back and waited.
It was patient, breathing with me, then breathing against me, like it was learning how fear sounded from this side of the plastic.
It didn't need to see me. It was close enough to smell the air I was breathing. And standing there, not moving.
I didn't need to see its face to know it was smiling. I could hear it in the way the plastic moved.
The tear didn't just open, it invited.
I stepped back, but the room didn't let me leave. Everything shifted with me, inch by inch. The exit was still there, but the light around it wasn't. The store was... My body just stops.
It stepped back, Not away, just far enough that I couldn't see it anymore. It didn't need a face. It didn't need eyes. The room already knew where I was standing. It didn't come out. It didn't have to. The darkness pulled away from it the way water pulls from a stone.
I didn't say its name out loud, but it answered anyway. Not with words.
Even the dust was moving toward it, like the room already knew which direction inside really was.
The room didn't feel empty anymore. It felt occupied, filled from the inside out.
I didn't touch it. I swear I didn't.
It pressed back, gently. Not grabbing, not forcing, just aligning itself with me. I finally saw it. Not clearly, but enough. Enough to know it wasn't trying to break.
It didn't run. It didn't tear its way out. It just knocked. Like it knew exactly which.
I thought the fear would peak, but it softened. I didn't mean to move. I just wasn't where I had been anymore. The floor shortened.
I wasn't backing away anymore. The room had already decided which direction was forward.
It wasn't pulling anymore. It was clearing the way.
I was close enough to feel the difference in the air, like stepping up to the edge of deep water at night.
I was standing in the middle of the line, the last place where both sides still felt real.
I didn't cross all the way. I didn't need to. The difference was instant.
I couldn't see it, but it didn't need light the way I did.
The space in front of me wasn't empty anymore. It had weight, intention, presence.
The dark wasn't in front of me anymore, it was around me. Something moved past my face without touching, close enough that the air remembered it.
It was close enough now that the darkness had shape, even without light.
It wasn't reaching for me anymore. It didn't have to. The space between our faces was gone, replaced by something heavier than air.
There was nothing to look at anymore, only something to be next to. I couldn't see it. There was no more approaching left to do.
There wasn't any difference between us anymore. No darkness in front of me, no room behind. The darkness didn't close around me. It opened and turned me toward where I used to stand.
When the darkness opened its eyes, the room was on the other side.
Lead. The room was still there, the light was still there, the person at the threshold was still there.
They went back to the light, back to aisles and shelves and explanations, and from this side it all looked so thin.
The world kept going out there, bright, noisy, forgetful. But it wasn't my... The world of light kept doing what it always does, forgetting. In here, nothing was forgotten.
Rosedell. The light I came from had shrunk into a corner of the frame, small enough to forget.
There was nothing left to watch on the other side. Whatever mattered was here, close enough to feel without hands or eyes.
Nothing needed to move anymore. Nothing needed to prove it was there. Around me, the dark settled the way a house does it. There was nothing left to cross, nowhere else to stand. The darkness didn't surround me anymore. It arranged itself around. There was no doorway to measure the distance anymore.
No light to chase, no reason to compare this place to anything else.
There wasn't anything left to discover about the dark. It didn't hide, and it didn't have to reveal.
I stopped wondering how long I'd been here. The question didn't make sense anymore. Around me,
I didn't feel like I was being watched anymore. I didn't feel chosen or trapped or tested.
I had stopped measuring distance, or time, or reasons. The darkness didn't explain itself.
I didn't think about the doorway anymore. I didn't think about how I got here, or what I used to be before this place learned my outline.
I stopped comparing this place to anything else. There was no before to measure from, no after to wait for. There was no sense of waiting anymore. No pull toward the door, no memory tugging at the light. I stopped thinking about escape, not because it was impossible, but because it didn't belong to me anymore. There was nothing left to compare this to. No light to miss, no door to look for. The darkness didn't feel like an answer or a question anymore.
There was no more sense of crossing over or of waiting for something to change. The darkness...
I realized there wasn't a later waiting somewhere beyond this moment. There wasn't a next door to open.
I stopped thinking of the darkness as something around me. It felt closer than that, like something I was made of.
I didn't feel outside of anything anymore. The darkness wasn't a place I had wandered into.
I wasn't trying to understand the dark anymore. There was nothing to solve, nothing to escape, nothing to name.
I didn't feel separated from anything anymore. Not from the dark, not from the ones around me.
There was no tension left in me. No pull toward the light, no urge to call this anything other than what it was.
I didn't feel like I was keeping still anymore. Stillness had become the way this place lived, and I lived the same way it did.
I stopped thinking of myself as someone inside the dark. The difference between me and you here thinned. I couldn't tell where I ended and the darkness began, and after a while I stopped trying. I stopped thinking of the darkness as a place I had entered. It felt older than that, larger than that.
I no longer imagined myself walking out of this. The thought didn't even know where to go anymore.
I stopped wondering what I had become. The question didn't belong here anymore. The darkness wasn't something that happened.
I didn't think about leaving. I didn't think about staying. Those words didn't fit here anymore.
I no longer searched for the version of me that used to stand in the light. That person felt like a story someone else had.
I didn't feel like I was waiting anymore. Waiting would have meant there was something else coming.
I didn't feel separate from the darkness anymore. Not as a visitor, not as a story.
I wasn't passing through the darkness anymore. Passage needed direction, and there wasn't any here.
I didn't think about who I had been before this place. Those memories felt like something that...
I no longer imagined myself stepping out of this place, or even moving through it.
I didn't feel like a person standing in the dark anymore. That idea belonged to a smaller world.
I didn't think about entering or staying anymore. Those words didn't apply to a place like this.
I no longer felt like I was holding on to anything. Not to light, not to names, not even to the idea of leaving.
I didn't wonder who I was here anymore. The question itself belonged to the world of light and clocks and end. I no longer felt like a consciousness inside the dark. I felt like one of the ways it existed. I didn't feel like I was sharing the dark anymore. Sharing suggests borders, separation, something that... I didn't feel like I was adapting anymore. There was nothing to adapt to. This wasn't a place I had... I stopped wondering what would happen next, because there was no next here. The darkness didn't lead anywhere. I understood then that nothing was waiting to happen here. There were no next steps, no final reveal.
I understood how easy it was for the darkness to keep things, how it didn't have to trap them or hold them down.
I realized there was no difference between staying and being. The darkness didn't need to hold me or convince me of anything.
I couldn't remember when the fear had left. It didn't break or fade, it just stopped being useful. I, an East Asian woman, understood then why nothing in this place ever hurried.
There wasn't a last thought or final word waiting for me here. Endings belong to places with light and clock.